Hi everyone, it's Curious Raven. I hope y'all are having a happy Thanksgiving and y'all get to spend some time with your loved ones. Number 1. I am a truck driver and I am only home on weekends. My wife has been experiencing noises coming from the basement. Knocking, banging, things dropping like sounds. Now she's hearing voices. And the bathroom light going on and off while it's in the shower, on and off occurrence. And on top it all off, our front door was wide open this morning. It was locked, and she tugged it before bed. We have 3 dogs that would definitely let us know if there was someone physically in our house. We have multiple deceased loved ones, and we think it's one of them letting us know they'll always be with us. I am definitely setting up a camera on the interior of our front door. Number 2. My house is haunted for sure, but the type of haunted that isn't consistent. Personal opinion. My house is near a portal or on one. As they come and go, never really staying. I've had instances of children's laughter, shadows, cold spots that move, hissing cats at doorways, one spook cat on the stairway, creaking stairs when no one was on them, lights not working in the bathroom at night that faces the stairwell, at night that faces the stairs, but then work the next day. And just the overall feeling something is watching me from the stairs when I'm sitting on the toilet, and sometimes when I lie in bed. Most things happen on the stairs or in our closet. The closet is flush to the stairs. They share a wall, and once in a while the kitchen, but it's super rare. Well, last night was a kitchen nightmare. I had just left the kitchen after making tea and getting some kids some Kool-Aid. I sat down. My husband was starting to make dinner. He was making deer meat spaghetti. I hate the taste of deer meat, so he hiding the gamey flavor with spices so it just tastes like normal beef. I don't know how he does it, but it impresses me. He reaches underneath one of the cabinets and let out a yell and what the fuck. He scurried out of the kitchen, like backing away. Now this guy isn't scared of anything. Like I remember freaking out with the kids' laughter and he hardly budged, just told me ignore it. That's what he usually does with the paranormal stuff. Kind of used to it, he says, until he saw the hand. He said he was reaching down to get a pan and a freaking ghost hand zoomed past in the cabinet. It's one of those deep pocketed ones at the bottom that holds a bunch of pans. Our son likes to get in sometimes. He's 2, and he can easily shut the door in tons of room. So whatever the hand was disappeared in the wall cabinet. This kitchen is flush to our neighbors. This is a townhome. He was freaking out. He kept yelling, I saw a hand, a hand. I don't think he's ever seen a ghost. Maybe heard them, smelled them. Some ghosts have sense, or felt them. But ever seen one? I don't think so. He still went back in to make dinner after he calmed for a second. I'll admit I was pretty uncaring. I said, oh, a hand? Fun, laughed out loud. I think I've just learned if you ignore, they usually don't bother you. They do feed off fear, I think, or deep emotions. I do feel a little paranoid at times. I'll keep updating if anything else interesting happens at the house. Three. So almost every night at about 4:30, a thing, I don't know if it's a person or what it is, comes slowly up the stairs and stops in front of the door to my room. And stops there and just stands there till about 5:30 and then slowly walks down the stairs again. I never went and opened the door. I always just sit in silence and it goes away. That is if I'm awake, of course. If I'm not awake, I don't know if it's there or not. Anyway, I can always hear the breathing through the door. It happens often, and I've just gotten used to it being there. I told my parents, my friends, my ex-girlfriend, everyone just thinks I'm crazy. That's why I came here to ask anyone knows what it is or had an experience or had a similar encounter. Also, it started when I was 8 years old. Now I'm 16. We still live in the same house. If anyone knows anything, please let me know. Thanks. Number 4. The best man of our wedding and my husband's lifelong best friend Terry died about 2 years after we were married. It was a very sudden and very unexpected. He had even joked with him on the phone the night before he died in his sleep. My husband was asked to be a pallbearer at the funeral. We were so poor when we first started out. It literally took every penny we had, $700, to buy my husband a sports coat and for the funeral. My husband is 6'8" tall and over 300 pounds, so it had to be a custom made. It's easy if you're tall or big, not so much if you're tall and big. We could not afford an entire suit. This happened in December, so we decided to celebrate Christmas that year since all of our money went towards the sports coat. We were bummed, like, what can you do? Then we started finding money everywhere. I found a $50 in the dryer after doing laundry. The company my husband worked at decided to drop the employees off at a local gambling town, tackiest Christmas party idea ever, for the evening. I took one of the quarters and put it in the machine just out of boredom. I won $300. My husband found money in his wallet, and we both found money hidden in our desk. We ended up with exactly $700, so we were able to celebrate Christmas after all. A few months later, we moved to our house we live in now. The strangeness came with us. My husband and Terry were roommates before our wedding, and they fought like two little old ladies. My husband liked to watch TV in the evening. Terry did not. For a while, our TV would only come on if I pushed the button on the remote. It would not work for my husband at all. Out of frustration, my husband took things apart, determined to fix whatever was broken, but nothing was broken. There was no logical reason. It just wouldn't work for him. Then Christmas rolled around again. Terry liked flashy lights on the tree, and my husband liked solid lights. Their fights about it as roommates was hilarious. One would always change the settings when the other wasn't looking, and it went back and forth the entire time the tree was up. Well, we put our tree up, with the lights set to solid, of course, but every time my husband looked at the tree, they were flashing. He would try to change the bulb that decided if the rest flashed or stayed lit constantly, but the bulb was set up correctly. Then I would get home from work and my husband would be beside himself, like a little old lady, and demanded that I watch the lights. I did. They were not flashing, but whenever I left the room, they would flash. I thought it was hilarious and exactly the sort of thing Terry would do. Then we got a pug named Sarah. Terry and I both adored pugs. She was the cutest thing and loved to play. One morning I was in the shower in the master bathroom. I could hear a door stop on the other side of the house, a twanging away. It makes a very distinct sound. If you ever heard it, go flick one and you will hear it. And at the time I thought, oh, how funny. Sarah is playing with the doorstop. But I got out of the shower and Sarah was in the bathroom with me. I could still hear the doorstop. So I laughed and told Terry to cool it, and it stopped. Silly thing is this happened for a couple of years. Then one night I had a dream that I was talking with Terry. He was telling me how mad he was that he died. And we reminisced about the good times for 3 of us over the years. My husband said I was laughing and then crying in my sleep all night. He tried to wake me, but couldn't. I figured that was his goodbye. Fun, silly stuff stopped after that. My best friend since 8th grade, Sarah, the pug was named after her, with her permission, fought a long battle with breast cancer and then it spread to her brain. Then I was diagnosed with brain cancer. For a while, we didn't know which of us was going to outlive the other. I won. So, of course, we joked about it. I promised not to divulge the more sordid details of our early 20s love life. I made her promise to tell funny stories about me at my celebration of life. I just want everyone to eat BBQ and laugh, not cry in the church. I just asked that she please edit stories as needed to keep it clean. She agreed to keep everything appropriate for all ages. We also promised to haunt each other after we passed. She passed away in March of 2021. That summer, and my husband and I were living in a room and heard the loudest bang come from the laundry room. It was a gunshot loud. We were afraid the washing machine just blew up because we had just replaced the dryer. And that's usually how things go for us. We opened the laundry door, and the giant Costco-sized jug of laundry soap somehow fell off the flat surface of the dryer. The container broke and soap was everywhere. The more we tried to clean it up, the sudsier it got. I did the splits every time in the process, not by choice. It was truly a horrible mess. As I am cleaning and being super annoyed, my husband thought it was Sarah doing her promise haunting. One thing about Sarah was that she loved her puns. So he said this was her clean joke to pull on me. I didn't mind cleaning up the soap so much after he said that. May you all have best friends who haunt you in the best ways possible. This next story is by SG Horrors. He actually has a blog spot. I'm going to leave the link to his blog down below. Number 5. Hello. This story didn't happen to me, but a relative of mine. Some backstory. They are a family of 5 staying together. Parents, 2 siblings, and my grandma. So my grandma had been staying with my aunt and my cousins for a while before she passed on. On the day she passed, the whole family came down. Everyone was greatly affected. My grandma was one of the nicest people in the world, and she took care of all of us equally. I frequently visited my aunt's house to meet my grandma, and she would constantly give me pocket money and cook for me even though she was not well herself. However, it affected my cousins the most since they've been staying with my grandma since birth. And at this point, they were all around 12 years old and 9 years old already. After that day, my aunt realized that her younger daughter started spending less time with the family and locked herself in her room more often. Let's call my older cousin P and my younger cousin Q to make it easier. My aunt started to become suspicious of Q and thought she had a boyfriend. So she decided to ask P to be her spy. The next day, P told my aunt that Q claimed to be talking to Grandma, and she asked P to keep it a secret. After my aunt told my husband about this, Q received a very bad scolding, and they were reinforced that Grandma is no longer around. From that day onward, she was forced to leave the door open, and P was forced to sleep in her room with her. A few days went by, and nothing happened. However, about a week later, weird things started happening again. P claimed that Q started creeping out of the room slowly and started talking to Grandma in the kitchen again. She informed her mom again, but this time, instead of confronting her, my aunt and her husband decided to eavesdrop on the conversation. Initially, they thought that Q was developing mental issues like depression, etc. But when the eavesdropped the conversation, they knew something was not right. Q was giggling the whole time while talking to Grandma. The conversation also sounded real. They talked about what she ate, what she did in school, and her problems. They eavesdropped for a few nights, and one day they decided to take actions. When they stepped into the kitchen, what they saw really proved to them that Q needs professional help. In Q's hands was a raw chicken meat, and she was reaching out across the dining table as if she was feeding somebody. My aunt screamed, and Q was startled. I wasn't there to witness this, but I could imagine how bad it was. He told me that Q started crying and asking, "Where did next go?" I forgot what happened next, but the next morning my uncle brought the Utahs over to help them. Utah's is like a Muslim version of a priest, for those who don't know. The Utahs came, and Q immediately acted weird. She wasn't possessed or anything. She kept on asking why the Utahs came and says she don't like it. When the Utah started reading some Quranic versions, Q started shouting in Malay, "Stop Nanik, it's in pain!" So no one else saw Nanik except for Q. Also, we Muslims do not believe in spirits of the dead, meaning once you passed on, you'll go to the afterlife and won't come back as spirits. The Utahs asked my aunt whether she kept any items that Grandma left behind. That's when my aunt realized Q's kept the dress, or maybe pajamas that my grandma wore on the day she passed, and to be honest, it was filthy. They took the dress and passed it to the Utahs, while my uncle helped Q in his arms, since she was getting restless and wanted to stop my aunt. The Utahs placed the dress in a bucket of water, and Quranic verses read into it, something like holy water. The Utahs explained that the filthy clothes attracted certain jinns, and also known as demons, and it took the form of Grandma. The jinn took advantage of Q's emotional state to use her. After the whole ritual, the dress was disposed, and Q was quite affected by the whole thing. Eventually, Q became better, and now she is back to normal. Personally, I do not find this story scary, but I thought it was a good story to share. I find the story more sad. Sad because the love of all of us had for Grandma, especially Q, was shown and moving and may not be easy for everyone. I know all of us still miss Grandma, but we all know that she is in a better place. Thank you for reading my story. Number 6. In the winter of 2020, one of our close family members that lived with my parents, we will call him Gio, died in a car accident. Gio pulled out in front of a big pickup truck with a full load on the trailer and got hit head on. He sadly didn't survive the night at the hospital. He was a great guy. He was in his 50s and would help my parents with chores around the house, getting groceries, and helped with anything they asked. I'll tell 3 different stories from 3 different people about the experiences they had right after Gio's passing. About 2 days after Gio's passing, my father was replacing a light bulb in the hallway right outside of Gio's room. While he was changing it, he kept hearing footsteps, creaking and shuffling coming from his room. And when no one was in there and lights were off, when my father finished changing the light bulb with the same wattage as the old bulb, he turned it on and went to investigate Gio's room to see what all the noise was about. Right when he walked into his room, the fresh light bulb he just put in exploded right behind him. A coincidence, maybe. I wonder if my father walked through Gio and disturbed his energy when he entered his room. At our house, after a week after Gio's passing, I kept feeling like someone was watching me from the living room when my wife and I would do our nightly routine. When you come out of the bathroom to look to the left, after 4 stairs, they go down into a big living room with a raised ceiling. Every night for about a week, when we would do our nightly routine, before I entered the bathroom, I would look down into the living room in the far right corner, and it felt like someone was down there near the recliner, just watching while we got ready for bed. And if I would have got out of the bed in the middle of the night, I felt that presence also. Fast forward about 3 months later, I told my wife about what I was experiencing, and she looked at me with a side smile and said, "I felt it too." After we made the connection, we thought it must have been Gio saying goodbye before he passed over, because he always sat in the recliner when he visited. A few days after Gio passed, my parents had a little get-together at their house with a few family members and friends, just to lift everyone's spirits with dinner and company for the evening. When one of the girls that was there, we'll call her Bella, that was 4 years old at the time, got home from the party, her mother asked her how the party was and who was all there. She was naming off everyone, and the last name was Geo's. Her mother looked at her puzzled and said, "Honey, Geo passed away a few days ago. He couldn't be at the party." Bella looked at her and said in an adamant tone, "I saw Geo, Mom. He was sitting in the living room in his recliner. He waved at me and smiled." Okay, that's all the stories we have for today. I have to collect more. I hope you'll have a very good Thanksgiving and your bellies get full of lots of food. And I will see y'all for our creepy pasta Saturday. But until then, remember, it's scary out there. Love y'all so much. Please like and subscribe.
Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross